Imagine a world where they don't ban your crypto, they just ban you from holding it. It is February 9th, 2026, and the definition of clarity has just been surgically altered in the halls of the Senate. While the headlines promise a golden age, the 278-page substitute amendment is busy building a digital fence around your self-custody wallet. There is a reason Wall Street labeled Brian Armstrong public enemy number one last weekend. It wasn't because of his platform. It was because he refused to sign the death warrant for your private keys. I am the calm analyst. Today we look past the White House talking points to decode the sinister agenda within the Clarity Act. We reveal why the Genius Act was only the bait and what the Memorial Day deadline really means for your right to exist outside the banking system. The digital gulag isn't a theory anymore. It's a markup away from becoming law. In the legislative world, complexity is often used as a tool for containment. As of February 9th, 2026, the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act has undergone a profound transformation. While the original House version sought a simple division of jurisdiction between the SEC and CFTC, the Senate Banking Committee has introduced a 278-page substitute amendment that fundamentally alters the landscape of retail sovereignty. We must analyze the language of the bill carefully. Although it claims to preserve the right to hold digital assets, the layering of over 100 amendments creates a restrictive environment for decentralized finance. By implementing what critics call DeFi prohibitions, the bill grants the government expanded access to financial records while effectively narrowing the definition of a lawful software developer. Last weekend, the financial world witnessed a significant escalation. The Wall Street Journal labeled Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong as Wall Street's public enemy number one. This designation didn't happen by accident. It is a reaction to Armstrong's withdrawal of support for the current draft. A draft he argues contains a de facto ban on tokenized equities and removes the essential right to financial privacy. The friction between Armstrong and figures like Jaime Dimon at Davos highlights the core conflict. Whether the new digital economy will be open and competitive, or whether it will be absorbed into the existing banking monopolies under the guise of market structure. To understand the present, we must look at the Genius Act signed earlier this year. That bill established the preferred providers of liquidity, primarily bank-rate stablecoins like USDC and the new USAT. The current version of the Clarity Act seeks to close the loop by prohibiting crypto exchanges from offering yield-like rewards on stablecoins. The bill aims to prevent what the banking lobby calls deposit flight. If retail holders cannot earn competitive rewards on-chain, they are structurally nudged back into traditional 0.1% savings accounts. While 78 Democrats crossed the aisle for the House version, the Senate rewrite has caused a partisan fracture. The inclusion of provisions that exclude DeFi from the free market, combined with a lack of ethics oversight regarding politicians' own crypto holdings, has turned this into a Republican-only version for now. The strategy is clear. Get this bill across the finish line by Memorial Day. But for the retail holder, the question remains, is this the clarity you were promised? Or is it the construction of a centralized perimeter from which there is no exit? Money is water. It naturally flows where the friction is lowest and the rewards are highest. As of February 9th, 2026, the banking lobby is no longer hiding its primary concern. Traditional banks are facing what they call deposit flight. With $10 trillion in outstanding loans, the prospect of $6.6 trillion in bank deposits migrating toward high-yield stablecoins is a systemic risk to the legacy lending model. The yield gap is undeniable. While community banks offer a negligible 0.1% on savings, crypto platforms have been providing yields ranging from 3% to 4% or higher. For the average holder, the choice is purely mathematical. For the banks, it is an existential crisis. To address this, the 278-page Senate draft of the Clarity Act contains a specific provision that has fractured the industry. Section 404. This provision aims to implement a stablecoin yield ban, prohibiting intermediaries from paying interest or rewards on payment stablecoin holdings. The goal of this institutional gatekeeping is simple. If the yield is removed, the incentive for deposits to leave the banking system vanishes. This is the red line that Jaime Dimon and the banking lobby have drawn in the sand. The tension between the American Bankers Association, ABA, and Coinbase has reached a boiling point. Over 3,200 bankers recently urged lawmakers to expand these yield bans to every crypto exchange and affiliate. This is the real reason Brian Armstrong withdrew his support. He realized that a bill that bans yield and forces assets into centralized, non-interest-bearing vaults is a bill that turns crypto platforms into nothing more than digital branches of traditional banks. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has signaled that the administration wants a signature before Memorial Day 2026. The White House is currently mediating between the banking lobby and crypto firms, but the outcome remains uncertain. The banks have offered nothing in terms of negotiation. Their strategy is one of total containment. They want the market structure, but they want it on terms that preserve their monopoly over the world's capital. The war on yield is the war for the future of your money. Stay patient, stay rational. True sovereignty in the 21st century is no longer measured solely by the scale of the nation's fleet, but by the complexity of its silicon. As we move through February 2026, a new geopolitical doctrine has emerged within the White House: chips versus ships. The strategic understanding is that the future of the US dollar's hegemony depends less on military presence and more on the control of semiconductor supply chains and digital settlement layers. China's aggressive push into memory chip production, NAND and DRAM, is viewed by Washington not just as an industrial move, but as a move to secure the infrastructure for a rival digital monetary system. This is the clandestine infrastructure that the Clarity Act seeks to counter, aiming to lock the digital dollar into a domestic regulated framework before rival systems achieve critical mass. While the geopolitical race moves fast, the legislative process is currently stalled by a fundamental question of governance ethics. Senator Cy Booker and several key Democrats are refusing to support the current Senate version of the Clarity Act without strict anti-corruption provisions. The friction centers on the dual role of political figures acting as both regulators and market participants. With the rise of private digital asset ventures associated with high-level officials such as World Liberty Financial, the demand for transparency has become a red line for the opposition. They argue that a framework without these safeguards risks undermining the public's trust in the U.S. financial system itself. Adding to this complexity is the massive influence of Fairshake, which has amassed a $193 million war chest for the 2026 midterm elections. This capital is being deployed to ensure that whichever version of the bill passes, it remains favorable to pro-growth candidates. This creates a unique dynamic where the industry is both the subject of the regulation and its most powerful lobbyist. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has established a clear timeline, a signature before Memorial Day 2026. The administration is treating this as a national security priority to prevent the fragmentation of the dollar market. However, for the retail holder, the risk of being squeezed between banking interests and geopolitical goals is real. While the Genius Act established the who, the Clarity Act will establish the how. The institutions have chosen their path. The question is whether the individual will still have a place on that path by the time summer arrives. The promise of clarity is being met with the reality of containment. As we have decoded today, the Clarity Act of February 2026 is not just about rules. It is about the structural boundaries of the digital dollar. The transition from the Genius Act to this massive 278-page Senate rewrite marks the moment the legacy banking system decided to fight for every cent of its deposits. The war on self-custody and the restrictions on stablecoin yield are the final checkpoints. Wall Street may have labeled those who stand for retail sovereignty as public enemy number one, but the market always rewards those who build systems of independence. We are moving toward a Memorial Day deadline that will likely redefine financial privacy for a generation. Do not be distracted by the political theater. Focus on the infrastructure, focus on the proof of reserves, and most importantly, focus on the systems that allow you to exit the digital perimeter before the gates are locked. The institutions are ready. Are you? Stay patient. Stay rational. We don't wait for the future, we plan for it.